trips north to Atlanta, Georgia for match 2. The home team, Atlanta United, needing a win to keep their season.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers before the MLS Cup final. We are 550 away. So help us reach that goal. Share this link with a friend. Let's get as many people as we can tonight. This is an elimination game between Inter Miami, Messi and co, Barca boys versus Atlanta United. They got Arthur Blank hitting the I guess the rail or the nail, whatever it is. He's in the building tonight. But I want to know what your guys' prediction is going to be for this match. Who do you have winning? What's your score line? Are the older Barca boys going to struggle tonight playing on turf? Obviously, when you get older, it definitely affects your body a little differently, especially your knees and stuff and the way you move. So let me know if you think what the score is going to be and how they're going to do tonight. Elon Don says, can't wait. Said that earlier today. Appreciate you for tuning in earlier this afternoon and joining us and commenting. I think it's going to be a good game. I think Miami's going to take care of business. I said this earlier in the first game or in the first match. Atlanta United is a wounded team because they've sold all of their best players. They sold Thiago Almada. They sold Georgios Giacomakis. They sold Caleb Wiley. Now, they did bring in Miranchuk, who is a very good player, but I just think that they are an incomplete team. They have an interim manager, Rob Valentino, who's done very well, but there's still a lot to add to this team. And I think that they are kind of playing with house money. I don't think they're equipped to really make a run. Stadium looks pretty empty tonight, actually, which is kind of crazy. It looks like there's a lot of empty seats. I just don't think that they have the prowess or the players to beat Inter Miami in this current form. Inter Miami's playing with 5 out of the back tonight, which is interesting. Yannick Bright and Redondo starting in the middle. Diego Gomez playing the left wing, Suarez up top, Messi on the right wing. I just think that Miami is better equipped to win this game. They're going to finish, and they're going to advance the next round, and they're going to play the winner of I think they're playing the winner. Let me look at the bracket real quick. I don't know why I'm having a lapse on who they'll play next. I want to say it's the winner of the playoff bracket. I know that the winner of Orlando City, if I'm not mistaken, plays Columbus Crew, but I could be wrong about this. Okay, so they play the winner of Cincinnati and New York City FC. Had a small brain fog there for a second. So they're going to play the winner of that series. Last I checked, it looked like New York City FC was going to win that match, and that game's going to go to game 3. So Miami, if they're able to win tonight, will play the winner of FC Cincinnati and New York City FC. And that round will be an elimination game. It'll only be one game, and it would be played at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. So that obviously is definitely beneficial and in favor of Miami in an elimination game. Now, that match, if Inter Miami is able to win tonight, they won't play a single match until probably November 24th or 25th, something like that. So they're going to go 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks without playing a match. And this team is older, but I think that could hurt them, obviously, because they're not going to be in form. I mean, 3 weeks off is crazy. It's going to make them more prone to injury. So the MLS schedule and playoff system is very broken. And I still think it's crazy that we're having an MLS playoff game during college football right now. People who would have went to this game or watching their college team or at the game, or maybe just doing something else after watching college football. So I do wish this was changed a little bit. Obviously, we've talked about the calendar. I do wish this was taking place in May rather than October or November, excuse me now. But I do think that this game, you saw the stands. If you're watching the match with me, the stands looked a little empty tonight. So there's a lot of issues. But if Inter Miami is able to win tonight, they'll be able to advance the next round. They'll play the winner of the New York City FC Cincinnati match or series. And they'll get 3 weeks off of rest. Now, I guess, like I said, you could say it's favorable to them because they've got older players like Suarez and Messi and Busquets and Alba. But I just think that could hurt them a little bit, as far as, maybe not playing and then rushing back or playing after 3 weeks of rest and possibly getting an injury. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I wish that they would change the breaks between the series. It just doesn't make sense to have this first round and then have 3 weeks off just to go back to the semifinals. It really doesn't make sense to me. Now, as far as my score prediction, I think that it's going to be 3-1 Inter Miami. I think if Inter Miami is able to get a lead early in the match, I think that they're going to probably substitute Messi and Suarez out, especially because they're playing on the turf. I think that they're going to try to rest them and make sure they don't get injured, because turf, like I said, is so bad for your knees, especially at that age. I think that they are going to probably Tata Martino is going to try to get them out of this game as early as he possibly can. Mr. Miami Knight says 3-game series doesn't make sense either. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the benefit of this is. I was talking to a friend who is very involved with the league, and he was trying to tell me that they do this so that way that the better team gets an advantage. Instead of doing the 2 legs, the better team or the higher seed gets an advantage of having 2 home games if it goes to that. But I think that's dumb, because if you do the 2 legs, both of them are going to get a home game. And I just think that 3-game series don't have any business in Major League Soccer. It's too much, especially when you're going from a 3-game series to single elimination. That's just so drastic, right? I would rather have 2 legs, a two-leg aggregate for most of the playoff games in the 3-game playoff series. I just don't understand what the benefit of that is. Change the thing says, by the way, can you tell me what's happening in the U.S. election? I cannot tell you. I don't keep up with that stuff, so I have no idea. Kassar says, Messi will play with Argentina 2 to 3 days before the next round. Yeah, but I mean, look at all the time in between he's going to have off. Is he going to be more prone to injury because he's not playing in a game? And not just him, but what about Suarez? What about Busquets? What about Alba? What about the other guys who won't be playing games during the international break? Why does a break need to last 3 weeks? I don't understand why that's. I was talking to a friend about just trying to double check and make sure the Premier League, La Liga, the French League, all the bigger leagues, they only take a week off for the international break. Why are we taking 3 weeks off? What is the justification for taking 3 weeks off? I don't understand it. Mr. A good friend of the show, says, I'm going 2-1 Miami tonight. Yeah, I think that they'll score more than that, but I think what they're going to want to do, I said this earlier, they're going to want to get a comfortable lead and try to get Messi and Suarez and off the pitch and get them some rest, because it's on turf, right? It's definitely, a little more grueling for older players, especially with knee issues, to play on turf. Mr. Miami says, we were fortunate to have 0 yellow cards in game 1. With the 3 yellow card rule, I'm very nervous thinking long term. I think that I think everything will be fine. I think Toto Alvarez is the only one who really is at risk, kind of plays a little reckless to get a yellow card. But I think everything else is fine. I think you guys will be good. I think you'll be fine. They played pretty disciplined last game. Kyle Hicks says 2 legs means upsets. The better team seeded with 2 home games will almost always win over a 3-game series. Plus, it means more revenue and more eyeballs on TV. But that's only for 1 round. Why not have 2-leg aggregates over the entire playoff series leading up to like maybe the Eastern or Western Conference final? In the final, obviously. Why not just do that? Why would you... I don't understand. The 3-game series still doesn't make any sense. No other soccer league does that. It's just too much. I like the 2-leg aggregate, honestly, because for example, look at the Galaxy. The Galaxy won 5-0 at home in the first match, and if they did a 2-leg aggregate, they would have won the series already. The series would have been over. They could have just rested their players and parked the bus. So in that situation, it would have rewarded the good team. The lower seed would have had to done something heroic in order to make a comeback against LA Galaxy on the aggregate. Noah Marshall says, are you showing the game? No, I'm not showing the game. I'm not trying to get a copyright strike. I'm showing the score line. I'm watching the game. I think everybody else is watching the game. By the way, Miami's wearing their Miami Dolphins inspired third kits tonight, which look really good. Some very good, like the classic throwback jerseys, kind of. Well, they're not really throwback, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of supposed to be a throwback look. So we'll see. We'll see how they play in those tonight. I think they said something about them being undefeated in those jerseys. Quasar says schedule really should change. Just teams with bad weather should play away during December and February. Yeah, I think that's what the goal is, that they would have the colder climate teams play on the road in the earlier months, and then they would play home most of the warmer months. Hugh Jar says, has the game kicked off? Yes, it has. It's we're almost a minute in. Can't get it here in Ireland. So you can't watch on Apple, or you just can't. It's just not available at all. Apple TV is not available at all in Ireland. Also, too, guys, another thing to keep in mind, because I think the game was after we had done our first stream in Miami. Miami, the only team that really, well, Charlotte, I think, could be a thorn in their side, but the only team that really scared me in the Eastern Conference to beat Miami, like could give them a run for their money, and I still think Miami would be the favorite, was Columbus. But Columbus lost to the Red Bulls. They lost the Red Bulls in game 1. So they're going to have to win 2 games in a row to advance. So they have an uphill battle at this point, the Crew do. And if the Crew do get eliminated, I think Miami's going to coast to the Eastern Conference Final, or the MLS Cup. They're going to coast to the MLS Cup. I don't think there's another team in the Eastern Conference, maybe outside of Charlotte, that can beat them. But the Crew definitely could give them a run for their money. Oh, close by Jordi Alba almost to finish it. Yeah, there's not another team, I think, in the Eastern Conference that can beat them, honestly. I have a Dodge box to watch the game, and it's let me down. Yeah, you maybe get Apple TV. I think this game might be free on Apple TV Plus. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this match is free on Apple TV Plus. I could be wrong about that, though. Oh, Suarez almost scores. Brad Guzan's going to have another heroic game in order to give them any chance of winning this match. Brad Guzan was playing out of his mind last match. He was saving everything.
But my word, the last thing you want to do if you're Atlanta United is really turn the ball over right in front of your goal, right in front of the back line. And ask more.
Here's kind of a hot take. I think Brad Guzan's actually better than Zach Steffen right now. Like, if I had to call one USMNT goalkeeper not named Schulte or Matt Freese, I would probably call in Guzan over Zach Steffen. Zach Steffen was an unmitigated disaster last night. I mean, he gave up that own goal. Well, technically wasn't an own goal, but that deflection goal he had off of Gabriel Peck was disgraceful. I mean, that was embarrassing. Anthony Booker says, let's see if Miami can have a rare good defensive performance today. Zach Steffen is terrible now. Yeah, he is. He's pretty bad. I mean, how is he even in the running for goalkeeper of the year? Sometimes it feels like they try to prop up certain people for awards because MLS wants them to look good because they're a national team player or whatever, but I think he's been bad. I don't think he's been very good. Mr. says the Crew were about as good as I've seen them under Nancy the other night. And they still lost, though, right? Isn't that kind of crazy? Even though they played well, they lost the Red Bulls. And keep in mind, Mr. They're going to have to win 2 games in a row in order to advance to the next round. And I still think Charlotte FC is going to beat Orlando City SC. And that's going to be a tough matchup for either side of Columbus or the Red Bulls because they're just so sound defensively. Anthony Booker says that's exactly the reason, reason Miles Robinson keeps getting called into the USMNT because he's MLS, or they're propping up. You think the league?
Right on Noah Allen to make sure that for pace, for any kind of counter-attacking opportunity, I've got him one-on-one.
Big responsibilities for a 20-year-old homegrown kid in Noah Allen, right? Both organizationally, defensively, and starting possession. I mean,
did you guys see that great assist by Miles Robinson? I didn't see it. I honestly didn't watch much of the New York City FC game. I was watching college football, like a lot of people were. I honestly caught the back end of it, but I don't even know who actually won that game. Who technically won? I know the game's over. Did Cincy lose? Yeah, okay. So Cincy lost 3-1 to New York City FC, and they will play game 3 probably next week. And then the winner of that will play Inter Miami in the next round. Barca Vibes says, hello. How do you see the game going today? I think it's going to go 3-1 Inter Miami. I think they're going to try to build a comfortable lead, and they're going to try to get Suarez and Messi out of here because they don't want to risk any injuries on the turf, especially with their age and Suarez's knee issues. I mean, he's playing good, obviously, even with his knee issues, but they don't want to risk any chance of him hurting his knee. They need him if they want to win MLS Cup. So I think they're going to try to build a comfortable lead, and then they're definitely going to get Suarez out of here and probably put Campana on at some point in the second half. And then Messi will probably come off for Matias Rojas or Robert Taylor. They'll probably try to get them out sometime early in the half, after the half. Propping up certain players that are so called face of MLS. It was an own goal assist. New York wins 3-1. Yeah, I think that they definitely want their USMNT players in the league to get a certain level of publicity and notoriety, right? Although now this might be crazy, but we're in such a bad spot right now with the national team as far as goalkeepers go. I wouldn't actually mind giving Guzan a call up just because he has been playing really well lately. I mean, I think he's been playing really well. So I actually wouldn't be mad if they gave him a call up. I don't know how it would go, but I mean, what can you lose? What is there to lose? He is 30 years or 40 years old, but there's been several goalkeepers that play well into their 40s. Matt Turner hasn't been that great. And Brad Guzan still looks like he's athletic enough to make good saves. I mean, if you watch that game he had against Inter Miami last week, he was incredible. Number 3, old man Brad is better from 2 Euro schedule won't work, but the Apertura and Clausura schedule aligns with Liga MX and most of the traditional Euro schedule. 1 Neymar to Inter Miami, ditch Suarez. And then Mr. Mitchell says, do you think there's any truth to Neymar rumors? Okay, so I do think there is some legs to that, okay? But it's going to depend on a lot of what the league is willing to do. Jorge Mas, the owner of Inter Miami, wants to build a squad that's good enough to compete at the Club World Cup, which is being hosted here next year in America. He wants to build a squad that's good enough to compete and put on a good showing because he doesn't want to get embarrassed. He doesn't want to get embarrassed, and he wants to try to actually win it. So I think they are going to do some things. Probably next month we'll hear some news, or obviously in January. That's going to be a little bit of a tweaking to the rules to allow teams to bring in more talent. It's inevitable at this point. And I think they're going to try to get Suarez. Even technically, they could get Suarez because they have a DP spot open, or could get one open because of Campana. So there's a lot of ways they could get that done. Now the question is, what would the Saudi club? What is their bottom dollar on Neymar? Like what's the minimum they're willing to take to get him off the books? Neymar technically has been kind of a disappointing signing for them because he's been injured. And he's injured, and he hasn't lived up to he's Okay, so he's been injured. They paid a lot of money for him. He's making like $200 million a year. I think they want to move off of him because they have a limit to how many players that they can have on the books. They're technically foreign players. So I think that they definitely they would be very interested in moving off of him. Now, I don't know what they'd be want to take, but I think Miami would definitely be interested in getting him. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. And he bought that property in Miami. You know, he spent what was it, $25 million on that plot of land. So I think there's a good chance it could happen. I really do. I think there's a very good chance that he could come to Major League Soccer sooner than later. I would probably put it at like 50-50 right now, personally. I think it's probably about a 50-50 chance. I don't think Turner is our long-term keeper. Man, I hope Slanina gets good quick. Yeah, that's definitely something they were hoping, that he would really take the next step, but he's kind of, I don't want to say stalled out because he's only 20 years old, but he really hasn't taken any significant step or made any progress with being on loan army of Chelsea, right? Normally that hurts your career so bad, being on loan army with Chelsea. It normally never works out. So hopefully he gets a move somewhere where he can play and stay with the club consistently and grow, because he's definitely uber talented, right? Uber talented. Hugh Jar says, where is Neymar being linked? Inter Miami. Inter Miami is where he's being linked. Now, the question is, a lot of people debate, do you want Neymar, if he comes to Major League Soccer, to go to Miami, or do you want him to go to another club? Some fans would be upset that there's all their stars in one place. They want them spread out to where there's reason to, watch other teams. Some people would want to see Neymar like in New York City FC, so that way that there's a reason to really pay attention to New York City FC. They have a star. If LAFC sign Griezmann, they have a star. Miami obviously has Messi and Suarez. So to have the stars spread out, but that really, I don't really care about that too much. I think that the player, if he wants to go to Miami, let him go to Miami. Like, let him decide, especially if the team's willing to pay, let him decide where he wants to go. Vitor Rodolfo says, hey there, what changes do you see happening to the league in the next 10 years? I think that there's going to be the calendar change, which is going to happen probably in 2026. I think that the salary cap will probably, in 10 years, probably be closer to like, I would say probably closer to like 40 or 50 million in 10 years. I would say that's crazy. It sounds crazy, but I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that if they do it right, the league could probably be close to a top 6 or 7 league in the world in the next 10 years if they play their cards right. That's what I think will happen. Now, as far as MLS 1 and 2, like relegation, promotion relegation, I think that will probably be 15 or to 20 years away if it ever does happen. Mr. says, personally, I'd like to see Neymar at Orlando. Yeah, Orlando has a very large Brazilian population, so that would make a lot of sense for him to go there. But when you look at Kaká going there, he was very disappointing, honestly, what his impact on the team and his tenure there. Really didn't do much. He was injured a lot, and it feels like they failed to capitalize on his stardom when he was with Orlando City SC. And I think maybe he played at the new stadium for one season. I can't remember. But I would say that his signing or his tenure with Orlando was a disaster. But Neymar is definitely someone who could galvanize the fan base and probably get more traction. I know a lot of Brazilian fans that I know personally live in Orlando said that if they got a player like that, that would definitely pique their interest. Hujar says, is Di Maria going to Miami? I don't know. I think that probably is not going to happen at this point. He is 36 years old, be 37 next year. I think he had a chance to come here this summer. Didn't work out. Re-upped with Benfica. Obviously, there was the rumors of him going to, is that Messi on the challenge by Dax McCarty? I think that he had a chance to go back to his Rosario Central, I think is the club, his childhood club in Argentina, but he couldn't because of the safety of his family. So I don't know. I think he's probably going to stay at Benfica. I don't see him going to Miami. He might go back to Argentina, but I don't see him going to Miami. Personally, I don't think so. Neymar versus Messi, the Battle of Florida. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting storyline, but I think Neymar would rather play with Messi than against Messi. So I think that's probably not going to happen. Plus, imagine having the best front three in the history of soccer back with each other in Major League Soccer, having Neymar, Suarez, and Messi up front. I mean, who's stopping that? Who's stopping that front three? That front three scoring probably 20 goals each. Do you guys? Okay, that's a question. So Messi and Suarez played 10 less games each than there was in the league, right? So I think Suarez played 24, Messi played 19 games this year. Both of them scored 20 goals. If Messi, Neymar, and Suarez are on the team next year, do all three of them score 20 goals each if they play a majority of the games? Do all three of those guys score 20 goals each? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they did that at Barca, didn't they? Let's see if they did. Which we all know that would definitely be harder to do at Barca than it would be to do at Miami. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Neymar, Messi, and Suarez all scored 30 plus goals in 2015, 2016. They all had very good seasons. Let's see if they... And then in 2014, 2015, they all scored 25 plus goals. And then I think 2016, 2017 was their last year together. And then in their final season, they all scored 20 plus goals. Now Neymar, I think, got hurt or there was some stuff going on there. But yes, they've all scored essentially in every single season they play together. They've scored, 20 plus goals. I think they would score 20 plus goals if they played on Miami. I think they all would score 20 plus goals. They should hire Xavi, truly bring back the Barca boys. I think they're content with Tata Martino. I think he's doing a very good job, honestly. I'm very... If I was a Miami fan, I'd be pleased with what he's done, and he's been able to capitalize off of So Tata Martino was the perfect hire for many reasons. He's had success in Major League Soccer. He's coached at Barcelona. He coached Argentina, so he's coached Messi 2 separate times before, 2 different stints. And he's a good manager of egos. I don't know how many managers could keep this group focused, especially with all the talent on the team, right? Or not just talent, but just the resumes on the team. There's definitely some egos. So he's coached a lot of these guys before. He has proven he can win in Major League Soccer. So, he just checked all the boxes. He was the perfect hire for them. Now, if for some reason he didn't work out, Xavi would be someone I would be interested in seeing if they would hire. But I don't know if he would come here, honestly. It would probably take a lot of convincing on Miami's part to get him here. But I don't know if Xavi... I don't know about that. I think Xavi's honestly a dark horse to replace Pep when he leaves Man City. I think that is something not enough people are talking about, honestly. That's the worry. If Miami gets Neymar, they'd be unstoppable. But that's good, honestly, Mr. Mister. That's good. I'll tell you why, because teams are going to have to really go all out if they want to keep up with the best team in the league. So I love that, honestly. I like anything that pushes teams and makes them have to get better. I endorse completely. Kyle Hicks says no promotion relegation until MLS buys the top USL championship teams and invest heavily in their infrastructure, players, capital resources, and operations. Allow new expansions into MLS 2 championship. I don't think so. I think it would be before that, honestly. I don't think that's how they would do it. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs says Tata is good, but I question his skills as an in-game manager. I mean, we'll have to see how he finishes the season if he can win MLS Cup. I feel pretty good about him winning the cup this year, and he's already won an MLS Cup with Atlanta, and he just broke the MLS points record when his best players were missed 10 games this year. So I think he's done a pretty good job. I think some people are hypercritical of him, but I think he's been very good. Jeffrey Barber says, "Hey brother, hey, how's it going? Appreciate you joining the chat and joining us tonight. And also, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like the stream down below. It helps us out, trying to get as many people in here as we can to talk about this game and see if Inter Miami can win and advance to the next round of the MLS Cup Playoffs. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers before the MLS Cup final, which is December the 7th. So make sure you subscribe. Help us get there. And I think we'll get there. I really believe we will hit the 5,000 subscribers by MLS Cup final day because of your help. So I appreciate the support, and let's get to 5K. Mr. Krabs says, other teams should not get mad if Inter Miami is buying all these players. Just get better. Exactly. I think that's the right approach. Don't get mad. Get even. Try to. I don't want to say replicate, but try to do what you can do to be a better team. Right. Ooh, Messi almost scores. Good pass by Diego Gomez. I'm telling you, Brad Guzan's going to have like a heroic game tonight in order for Atlanta United to have any chance. He's going to have an absolutely heroic game. Jeffrey Barber says, "Who will Atlanta United get for their head coach?" I still think Patrick Vieira is the favorite to be the next manager, but I think Rob Valentino having a very good playoff helps his case. I just don't think the Atlanta United fans would really get behind that. I mean, you see tonight, there's a lot of empty seats. So I think even with the Miami coming to town, there's a lot of empty seats. So I think that the favorite right now is still Patrick Vieira to be the next MLS or to be the next Atlanta United manager. New York City is a big market. Why aren't their teams buying world-class players? Well, first of all, the Red Bulls are cheap. They haven't bought a world-class player since Thierry Henry. They just haven't been very invested in their team. New York City FC had David Villa, Andrea Pirlo, Frank Lampard, but they've kind of switched their approach to buying younger players. Now, I think that's going to change once their stadium's built in 2027. I think that they'll start trying to sign better quality players, more name recognizable players. But right now they're just kind of going with the flow. They're kind of on cruise control. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not trying to compete and win because they are, but they're doing it in a different way. I think they're going to wait until that stadium is built in 2027. Then you'll start to see the Red Bulls, the New York City FC try to sign bigger name players. But the Red Bulls, I think, are going to try to sign someone big this summer. It didn't work out. Timo Werner, I think, is who they were trying to sign. Next year, I think things will be different. Next year, I think next summer, I think they'll get someone pretty big. Also, isn't that crazy? Most of you guys follow the league, I assume. It's crazy that New York City FC have never had any of the Man City players come to New York City FC. Not a single one. Not Yaya Toure, David Silva, Nasri, Sergio Aguero, Eden Dzeko. Like, none of these guys ever came to Major League Soccer, and they had a huge connection or foot in the door with them because of City Football Group. I just can't believe not a single one of those very good Man City players, when they were done with Man City, came to New York City FC. I would have thought at least a couple of them would have came over. Not a single one has come over to New York City FC, which is crazy to think. Joe Ryan Salazar says, the great Brad Guzan, longtime MLS legend, taking good measure of a certain Mr. Lionel Messi. That's MLS for you. Yep, he's he had a very good game last week specifically. Oh, Mirchuk with the nice header, but it was deflected. How about How about that LA Galaxy, great team with great form through 2 games in playoffs. They mean business. Yeah, they're my team that I think is going to go to the MLS Cup final from the Western Conference. I think that's what's going to happen. Jeffrey Barber says, will Kevin De Bruyne come to San Diego or other MLS teams? I think that he is likely to go to San Diego if he comes because they're willing to pay him a lot of money. And the money is no object for that owner. Atlanta United's threatening, by the way. I think he'll be in MLS sooner than later. I don't think Kevin De Bruyne is going to Saudi Arabia. I think he will come to Major League Soccer because of his family and just his lifestyle. I don't think he wants to go there. I think he wants to come to America. He's always said he's going to come to America eventually. Not a matter of if, but when. So I think that he will definitely be coming to Major League Soccer. And isn't that crazy that if Kevin De Bruyne is going to leave, why aren't New York City FC trying to get him? They have a foot in the door with him right now. Why aren't they signing contracts to say, hey, when you're done with Man City, we're going to get you at New York City FC? Zach Steffen can kiss any more call-ups to the USMNT goodbye after the blunder he had, right? I got my good friend Danny Solana on here. We bring him in. Danny, what's up, man?
How's it going, man? Everything going well?
Everything is good. Everything's good. We've been talking about a lot of things tonight. Suarez, Miami, talking about this terrible calendar, everything in between. But before we get into that, let me ask you this. What do you think about your team 30 minutes into this match?
I mean, I think so far they've been the closest team to get a goal. A couple, weird close calls from Atlanta, but overall, I mean, I think, they're in their game plan and they've been the closest one to score. So I think that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, I was thinking the approach, they want to kind of put this to bed early and get Messi and Suarez off the pitch, because you and I both know how bad turf is, especially when you're 37 years old with some, I won't say bad knees, but suspect knees, right? Obviously, Suarez's knees aren't what they were 10 years ago, even though he's a very good player still.
Let's call them overly used knees.
Just overly used knees, right? Exactly. Yeah, he's over 100% on his knees. But I think that they would ideally like to get them off the pitch sometime after, like maybe 10, 15 minutes after halftime with a comfortable lead, right? And get those guys some rest. But the way that this is going, oh, what a save. Marinchuk with a banger there. Good save by Drake Callender. That's what keeps him around right there. Those kind of saves is why he's still inside the net, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what he's good at. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, I think your buddy Chris described him as Spider-Man. Spider-Man in goal. That was a good.
That's a good analogy, man.
Right? But ideally, they would want to put this game away early on, especially because of the turf. But it's not looking like that's going to happen. I mean, this looks like it's going to be a close match. I mean, now we know, me and you both know that Miami can definitely score at the drop of the hat, get 3 goals, 2 goals. But this one looks like it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to take a look at the history between Inter Miami and Atlanta as well. Just this year, Inter Miami wasn't able to beat Atlanta. They lost at home to Atlanta in the early part of the summer. Then they tied in the latter part of the year away at Mercedes-Benz Dome. It was a crazy game where Inter Miami didn't play with, I think they had 11 players out that game. And Miranchuk scored a banger to tie it. But I think you're right, Will, 100%. I think, the Tata's understanding or game plan 100% was, let's put this away early and let's get our big guns off, with at least 25, 30 minutes left to play. But look, I didn't think it was going to be like that just because of the history of these two teams. And you also have to think about it. Atlanta just really doesn't have anything to lose at this point. So, they're really putting everything out there. And some of the guys are probably competing for spots next year, knowing that there's going to be a new GM coming in. There's going to be a new coach. So, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be, a walk in the park. I predicted a 3-1 scoring line. Inter Miami's a better team in the second half than they are in the first half. But, they didn't get as lucky as they did in the first game to get that early goal from Suarez. So, I mean, it's been back and forth so far, and, it's been a good game.
Yeah, I think it's been a very close game, and I was saying this during the stream that I think that Brad Guzan's going to have a heroic game like he did last week in order for him to have a chance. He was absolutely on fire last week, man. He had one of the best performances I've seen by any goalkeeper this season in Major League Soccer, like a blast from the past. He did not look 40 years old last week, Danny. He did not look 40. Like, he looked like a guy who's saying, hey, man, I'm here. Pochettino, I'm here. If you want to give me a call, I'm ready to go. I know you guys are having some unfortunate play, in goal for the national team. Give me a call, man. I'm here. But, I don't think that that's going to hold up consistently, because it's really hard to play hero ball like that for 2 straight games. And Miami's attack is just so damn good, man. It's not a matter of if they score, it's when they score. And when they do score, every time me and you've done a game together watching Miami, when it rains, it pours, man. They score several goals when it opens up. So I always think that this team starts slow in the first half and they really pick it up in the second half.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the stats from the last game, I mean, Inter Miami had 22 shots, 12 of them on goal. Brad Guzan stopped 10 out of the 12. 3 or 4 of them were just absolutely incredible. I mean, you talk about Brad Guzan having one of the best, performances of a goalkeeper all year. I think he had one of the best goalkeeper performances in a playoffs in the history of the MLS. From what I can remember, it was just absolutely unbelievable. Some of the balls that he took away from Messi, one upper 90 to his right that he took away, a couple other close ones. So I think you're right on spot in terms of, if Atlanta United is going to have a chance of winning this game, of extending the series, they're going to need the similar performance from Brad Guzan. But look, Inter Miami hasn't been attacking like they did in the first half of last game. And it could be the fact that Busquets is out this game. Tata, is making some changes to the lineup. They started with a back 3 today. Just want to give a shout out to my buddy out there, Noah Allen, starting in a playoff game. Super proud of the young guy. He's had some great performances at the end of the season. So it's really nice to see a young guy get a start in the playoffs in a really meaningful game. But yeah, I don't see Inter Miami as pressing as high, and attacking as much as they did in game 1. I think they're kind of just sitting back and letting the game come to them, and then just trying to pick their points. So yeah, we'll see what happens, in the rest of this game. But
sent nutmeg by Suarez.
I did. He still got it, man. He still got it.
He's technically sound, man. We haven't talked about this in a bit, so let me get your thoughts on this. I talked to your friend Chris, obviously from the Battered Herons, got his perspective on this, but Jeffrey Barber brought up a good question, and we'll start. Before we get into that, let's lead up to it, right? Who is the one team in the Eastern Conference that scares you the most as an Inter Miami fan to face?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. It has to be the Columbus Crew, right? They're probably, probably after Inter Miami. I think they might be the best team overall, from top to bottom. I don't see a lot of weaknesses, although, they lost to the Red Bulls in game 1. They're definitely one of the teams that, not that I would be scared of, but it would definitely be a very, very good match. And it's somebody that I wouldn't want to face if you want to get an easy road to the final. And another team that would be a little concerning would be Orlando, just because it's a Clásico, it's a rivalry match. And in a 1-game playoff, even though Inter Miami's, pretty much almost undefeated at home, they play so well at home. What can happen in a rivalry match, right? I mean, right, Will, anything can go any way. So, that's a game that's really curious. Oof.
Yeah, I think that I personally think that a worse matchup for them would be Charlotte, because they're so good defensively, like really good defensively. They've only conceded 37 goals all year long, which is crazy, right? Kalina is a very good goalkeeper. The way we saw me and you watch Guzan play last week is normally how Kalina plays every match, pretty damn close to that level. And the reason why they concern me, right, is because it's a single elimination game. If they have a really good game, and Miami struggles, it only takes 1 goal and they win. That's all it does. Like, if Miami just cannot get on the scoreboard, and they're able to pull one back. That's what kind of scares me from a Miami perspective. So I would say that Charlotte and then Columbus obviously is the other team that kind of scares me a little bit. Now, moving on to the MLS Cup final. Let's say the Inter Miami is able to get through the Eastern Conference battlefield, make it to the MLS Cup final. Which team from the West scares you the most?
I think it's got to be the Galaxy, man. I think it has to be the Galaxy. They're playing so fluid. I mean, watching the game last night, even when it was just 2-1, I mean, it was so clinical against Colorado yesterday. So clinical, the way how they play, the way, Peck is moving through the midfield. Even though he starts as a winger, he starts at one wing, he ends up on the other wing, he comes into the middle. The Paintsil, insane goal last night. I think it has to be the Galaxy just because the players that they have and they're kind of turning it on at the right time of the season, right, Will? I mean, that game yesterday, they were on, like I said, on fire. I thought it was one of the better games I've seen them play lately. So I filled out a little bracket. My bracket had Galaxy versus Inter Miami in the final. So just in case those of you watching are interested in the question, that would be that's my MLS final in terms of who I think is going to get there. I know I've seen folks, talk about LAFC. Obviously, Colorado's another, big one coming out of the East. But I mean, this playoff, this playoff it's atrocious. It is absolutely atrocious.
You think it's atrocious, really? Yeah. Why do you say that?
I hate it. I hate the 3-game series. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to do that, just do a home and home and just do, goal differential. That's one. Second, why would you have a 3-game series and then go to knockout stage games? Just do everything home and home except for the final. Even the Eastern Conference final and Western Conference final, I would have that as a home and home. Allow both fan bases to be able to see their team in the final of the conference, and you have the lower seeded team as the team who hosts the second game, and that's how it should be. That's my opinion. I get it. It's about money, right? We've talked about this before. It's about money, and that third game offers the MLS some money.
Yeah, but last night, right? I did a live stream for the Galaxy game. Mm-hmm. The 3 games. So I've had arguments about this, debates, saying, Will, you can't do the 2-game aggregate. It rewards the bad team. Well, last night it rewarded, So last night I think that game rewarded the bad team. LA Galaxy beat the Rapids 5-0 in the first match. They'd be at 5-0 in the aggregate. That's rewarding the good team. So now that 5-0 win is just going to be completely scrapped and it started over. And now, if the Rapids win, it's 1-1. There's no aggregate matters. The scores, the goals they scored don't matter. So I think that last night's scenario actually is an example of them not rewarding the good team. So I wish they'd go to the 2-game aggregate because, like you said, it gives each team a home game so they can make money. And most of these series probably are not going to even go to 3 games, but it's just the fact that they could go to 3 games is just so annoying. Like Cincinnati and New York City are going to game 3, and that's who the winner of Miami, if they win, that's who they're going to play.
No, the winner of Miami will play Orlando Charlotte, which is also going to a game 3. But Will, taking that everything you're saying into account, it's perfect. I mean, you take a look at last night's game between Orlando, or a couple nights ago, between Orlando and Charlotte, right? The first game, I think Orlando, won 2-0, 3-0, or whatever. But they tie, 1-1 the other night, and then you go to PKs to see who the winner is. I mean, what is that? Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand what they're trying to do with the PKs thing. Like, I guess they're trying to make it a little bit more fun for the fans. But, I mean, it's okay if there's a 0-0 draw in leg 1. It just makes leg 2 that much more exciting. And if one team wins 3-0 in leg 1, well, it just makes the other team have to play a little bit harder, or maybe a different tactic to be able.
David Martinez chip. Wait, are they going to call that?
Are they going to call a foul or no? Yeah,
I don't know. Did they?
Oh no! Goal! Let's go, baby!
Guzan with the fumble there.
Yes, sir.
Guzan with the fumble. David Martinez with the chip. 1-0 into Miami.
You said it. They're going to need a perfect game from Brad Guzan. And there is screw up number 1 and Inter Miami makes him pay.
Oh, what's he doing with the celebration? Under the shirt, kiss the belly, huh?
Looks like his wife or his partner's pregnant.
I don't think Redondo did anything there, honestly.
He did it. He didn't
touch him. He didn't touch him or anything. He wasn't even in front of him.
Guzan just fell on his own. Guzan fell on his own.
I think he got scared, but he didn't do anything.
He thought he was going to get hit, or he thought he might clip him, but you got to let him clip you to get the foul, right?
Yeah. And they chipped it. I mean, that they could have still prevented that. It really went between two guys' head.
Yeah, in Uruguay, we call that una cagada.
Well, hey, it happened again, right? Bring it to the stream. So I guess they're reviewing it right now, but I don't see anything, man. That looked legit to me. No bump, no block of vision. He was literally just beside him a little bit, and it looked like Guzan kind of got startled and he dropped the ball, or kind of he choked right there. So they're up 1-0, and Atlanta United are going to have to. Well, I guess they're still reviewing it, but I don't see how that wouldn't be. I don't see how that wouldn't be allowed.
I mean, I'll tell you this, man. With the way the officiating has been tonight, it's been super sketchy. I don't love this referee. So it's a goal.
Goal. It's a goal. It's counted. There you go. That's his first goal, right? David Martinez is an Inter Miami player.
I believe so.
There you go.
I believe so. So, hey, welcome back, David Martinez. Game number 3, and you're getting a goal. Way to go.
So, let me ask you about this. We haven't really talked much about any of this stuff going on. We haven't even talked about the schedule. We, casual stuff, but nothing in depth. What do you think about, and we'll read some comments here. We had a couple comments about the match. We'll read those in a second. But what do you think about Miami winning this match and then being off for 3 weeks?
Obviously, I don't agree with it. I don't know if you saw Ricky Puig's tweet this morning when he retweeted something about the schedule, and he said we don't have a game for 22 days, and he even added the MLS. So I think that's great. I think the fact that the players are talking out about it is fantastic. I understand that there's an international window, but I mean, there are weekdays, and you can play games. They didn't have to split this first round into 3 weeks. They could have been playing games, every 3 or 4 days. And that's okay. These guys are meant to play every 3, 4, 5 days. You don't have to wait a week. So I think it's ridiculous that they have to wait 3 weeks. And what can you say, man? MLS, dropping the ball once again. It's something that we're used to. But I really hope they look into this and they change it for the future.
I don't understand why we're taking 3 weeks when the Premier League, La Liga, the French League, all these other leagues are only taking 1 week off. We're not even taking just 2 weeks off? 3 weeks. Why is there a 3 week break? I mean, what justification do they have for that?
Well, I'm sure, we celebrate Thanksgiving over here. They don't celebrate that over over in England and Spain and things like that. So they're probably factoring that in, the fact that it's a big weekend for the NFL.
Actually before Thanksgiving, like the first, it's like the 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, then I just don't get it. I mean, I know the international break is a couple weeks away, but I think they dropped the ball with this, 3-round first or 3-game first round. If they would have just played 2, they would have been able to fit another couple games before the international break, and we wouldn't have this issue. So I think you can even blame it on that.
Yeah, I think they're risking injury and stuff, and teams can, I don't want to say lose form, but it can definitely affect players when they're playing red hot, and then you ask them to take a 3-week time off, 21 days, not play a match. Practice is good, man, but it's not playing a match. They call it match fit for a reason, right? And I just think this could be detrimental to a lot of teams and kind of screw things up. This is where it gets wonky, and maybe a team doesn't recover as good as another team, and it's going to be single elimination too, Danny. So like, you lose one game and you're out.
Which sucks. And we're talking again about scheduling, right? I mean, I think we both agree, and I don't want to speak for a large part of the MLS fan base, but I think there's not a lot of folks that are loving this 3-game first round matchup, and the fact that every other game is a knockout. I mean, I think you and I can agree, and some other folks can agree, that we don't like that as well. But I think the one part that does make it fair is everybody's going to be off for 3 weeks, right? So it's not just one or two teams that are off and other teams are going to be playing, during the break. So in that way, it kind of, evens it out. But still, just like you said, 3 weeks of not playing an actual, real game does affect your in-game fitness, especially if you're not going to be going to the national team. Inter Miami is only going to have 2 or 3 guys going to the national team. The rest of the team is going to be hanging out in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. So it'll definitely affect. And it's going to be interesting to see if these teams are going to play some friendlies over the next 3 weeks, maybe with local clubs or something like that.
Yeah, me and Mo from Mo Football TV talked about that last night. And even that's kind of difficult because I don't see any European teams coming over here for a week. It's normally a tour, a summer tour. That's why they're over here. Maybe a Liga MX team will play a friendly with them, but I don't think you can. It's against the rules to play a friendly in season with another MLS team. So,
well, but maybe a USL team, that didn't make it, into the playoffs of the USL side, or even a local team that plays, NASL or UPSL, some of these local leagues, anything just to get, even if it's 2 halves of 30 minutes, that'll get you, into some movement, which is not the same as you do practicing. And obviously, with the humidity and stuff in Miami, I don't go to the practices. I'm kind of banned, I guess, from covering that. But from my understanding, they're not out there 2 hours a day training on straight fitness. So, it is going to affect the players. It'll affect everybody, but it comes down to scheduling, like we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I think that I think it's interesting to see how it pans out. That's the same thing they did last year. And LAFC obviously was one of the hottest teams in the league. They were able to make it to the MLS Cup. The Crew were one of the hottest teams. They were able to make it to the MLS Cup. So I think it's more annoying just to stop the momentum because you're ready to see what's next, right? Could you imagine if the NBA playoffs had their first round? They said, okay, guys, we're going to take 3 weeks off now, and then we'll go to the quarterfinals, right? It just doesn't really make any sense to do that. I think it's a momentum killer, honestly, Danny. That's the issue. It's a momentum killer. And you want people, especially because college football is going on right now, you want people to still be interested in what's going on. You don't want to say, hey, you like what you see? Hey, well, guess what? We're going to take a 3-week break. You want it to be keep the momentum going, especially because in 3 weeks, the college football regular season is going to be over and the college football playoffs is going to be close to starting late in November. So you're going to be in an even more competitive field or where games in college football matter more. So I don't really understand their line of thinking on this. And I cannot wait until they switch the schedule, man, and the calendar and get to the new calendar. It's going to be beautiful. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're in favor of that and changing the calendar to the Euro schedule.
100%. I was waiting for you to bring it up.
The floor is yours. Tell everybody why it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. First of all, you're going to match up with, I would say, 95% of the soccer world who plays a similar calendar. You're going to be able to match up with their transfer windows, and you're not going to be in the middle of a season when you do the transfer window in July and things like that. I also think that it would give, it could make the Leagues Cup almost like a preseason tournament. Which would be fantastic because Liga MX is basically in their preseason during the League Cup month. So it could be almost MLS's preseason, and they can even turn it into almost like a preseason cup, and maybe it'll make folks happy. Now, I think the way to do this, though, is not to have one full season where it's a traditional European league where you have one table, everybody plays each other twice, and like that. I think what the MLS needs to do is have 2 tournaments. You have a spring tournament and a fall tournament. And the winner of each tournament, where you play everybody one time. So there's 27 teams in the league, 28 teams. You'll have 27 games in each one of the schedules. And you'll play every team one time home and one time away. Right? One time, if you play them home in the spring, you'll play them at away in the fall. But then you would have 2 champions in each tournament. And then the champion of each tournament would match up in the MLS Cup final. I think that would be a fantastic format.
So you would go to like the Mexican format.
I kind of, kind of in a way, but Liga MX is a little bit complicated because they also have like La Liguilla and playoffs and things. So they have, I'm not even saying go to playoffs. I'm saying you've got a spring tournament, a fall tournament, and the winner of each tournament, you play, everybody plays each other one time. So it's fair in each tournament. And then it makes it fair across the league. You play everybody twice, one time in the fall, one time in the spring. And then that would be the real champion because you would have a spring champion, a fall champion, the two champions meet up and you get an MLS champion.
I personally would like to see them just go to the fall to spring calendar, just like that, one season. But one thing I would change, and I think would be a better change, is to, instead of having an Eastern Western Conference playoff, I would just rather have a complete open playoff where the best, just every team. So Miami would have technically played, I think they still would have played Atlanta United in the playoffs because Atlanta United's the lowest seeded team in the conference, but or in the playoffs. But I would have loved to see it like that. Have LAFC as the second seed in the entire, or actually it would be the Crew. The Crew would have been the second seed in the entire league. The Crew would, or the LAFC would have been the third seed. LA Galaxy would have been the fourth seed. That would have been more interesting in my opinion, because I feel like all the best teams are playing each other the entire playoffs, because one side could be so lopsided that it's really an easier path to get to the MLS Cup final, right? The Western Conference, in my opinion, is not as good as the Eastern Conference. So they would have to play good Eastern Conference final teams to make it to the MLS Cup.
Absolutely. And that's not only being talked about in soccer, right? That's also been talked about in the NBA. It's been talked about in the NHL. It's kind of always been one of the things that fans have always been vocal about is, it should really be number 1 versus number 16, or in this case, number 18. Which if that were the case, actually Inter Miami would have played the Red Bulls. 18 would have been Montreal. So Inter Miami, I guess, would have played Montreal. They're number 17. But I agree with you. I think that would be a better format. And you get different matchups and probably more interesting matchups as well doing that. And like you said, the higher seeded teams would get an easier route to get to the final. But obviously, and I think this is why they don't do it in the other sports as well, is travel kind of comes into play. Because, could you imagine, God forbid, Inter Miami were to play Vancouver, 1 in 16 or 1 in 18. I mean, that's a lot of travel. You got to travel 5,000 miles to get to the game. So I think that's one of the reasons that they don't do it is the travel and all that. But I think it would be fantastic, and I'd be all for it.
I would do it as a single elimination, though, if that was to happen. That way, there wouldn't be a lot of travel both ways. It would just be the one travel game. But you have to think, most leagues don't have a playoff format in general. So, having one game is different than any other thing that we see across the world. So, the 2-game aggregate, maybe that would, maybe that'd be a little bit more fair. But, I don't really feel bad for them, man. 5,000 miles. These are professional athletes. They have world-class travel and they have planes. Like, they're not having to make a bus trip across country, right? They could get there in 6 hours.
No, but it's still, getting on the plane and sitting on the plane for 5-6 hours. It does affect your legs. It does affect, your physical abilities and stuff like that. And then, getting off the plane, having to play 90 minutes at the highest intensity possible the next day, hopping on a plane for another 5,000 miles. It's
don't they do that in the NFL though?
Yeah, but it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And here, remember, here you're playing 34 games. So after playing an entire season, you're going to ask these teams to travel 5,000 miles for one playoff game. I think that's a lot to ask for. I agree. They do travel. It's not like how it was before. They're not going on a bus or anything like that. They travel probably in first class. Very nice amenities, but I just don't see it. I don't know. I just don't see it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Regardless of, I think that having this being played right now, obviously you in Southern Florida, it's very hot. Maybe it's cooling down a little bit. I'd say it's probably in the 70s right now, maybe low 80s, which probably feels really good. But for other places in the country, right, it's starting to get really cold. And this is the most important time to watch the games. I think it'd be more enjoyable to have these playoff games played in April or late or early May. I mean, that's probably still, I mean, I know it gets definitely warmer in Southern Florida, but I guarantee it's probably cooler in late April, early May than it is in July or August. Like that would be like brutal to play games at the time of the year. And that's why I think with the schedule change, Danny, I think it's more dangerous to be playing in the summer in those like Texas weather, man. I mean, you've been to Texas. Houston, Dallas is brutal. 108-degree weather probably feels like 120. I would much rather play in 20 degree, 10 degree, 5-degree weather than play in 110-degree weather. You can bundle up, but you can't cool down.
I don't know, man. You might want to talk to the Honduran national team goalkeeper who played in that Minnesota game against the U.S. men's national team. I think he had frostbite on his hands for like 2 or 3 weeks after that game. So I don't know how far I would go to say that I'd rather play in freezing cold weathers than in hot temperatures. But I do think it affects, definitely the hot temperatures in the summer do affect the players. They affect the games. I see Mr. Krabs is asking, how would the Northern teams play? This is a great time to plug Will and MLS Moves podcast. If you haven't watched the episode yet with Eric Winalda, he gets into some detail on that. And this goes to show you, Will, that I watch you. But I know that Eric said that there's a team that plays in the North. And I mentioned this on Battered Herons the other day, that has already been in talks about possibly moving to a more southern city because of the weather that has already affected them until now. So it's a very valid question that what Mr. Krabs asked. You have a lot of teams up north. You got Minnesota, you got Vancouver, you have Montreal, Toronto, New England, the 2 New York teams. It's a really, really big question. And I think, you might have to start the season, mid to late February and play into June, if you do switch it, because I don't think you can play in January. I mean, it's not like playing in England in January. I mean, I know it's like 20 degrees, but I think it's I think the U.S. cold is a little bit of a different animal than the English cold. I'll put it that way.
Well, I think that they would take a break in January is what they've said. They would take the whole month of January. They wouldn't play a match. So it'd be like February, right? They already play in February. I don't know what team he's talking about specifically. Eric Winalda. I asked him who it was. I didn't even ask him after the episode because I don't even know if he would tell me. But there was a lot of rumblings, especially on Reddit, if it was Montreal. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, were you talking about Montreal? Because the fans in Canada are freaking out right now, thinking the team's moving to Detroit." And he responded to me and said, "No." So I don't think that Montreal is the team he's speaking of. I honestly have no idea. I mean, we're just speculating at this point. I have no idea what team he's talking about. I mean, could it be the Red Bulls? I doubt it.
I doubt it. I mean, it could be. It could. I mean, the fact that the Red Bulls have a majority owner, which is basically Red Bull, it could be. But I don't know, man. They have a very nice stadium. I know that they don't pack it as much. I don't think it's going to be NYCFC. They just have that new stadium going up. I know New England has been talking about a soccer-specific stadium as well. We're kind of ruling people out here, but it seems like, the sore thumb or the elephant in the room is Toronto FC. They haven't had great seasons as of late. There's, ever since, the Michael Bradley era, it hasn't been great. They signed the 2 Italians. And they just have, Bernardeschi and Insigne just haven't lived up to the hype that Jovinko, lived up to when he was there. So they couldn't replicate the Jovinko magic, that Jovinko had in Toronto. So could it be Toronto?
Before I answer that, guys, we have 45 of you in the chat right now. Like this video down below if you haven't already. It helps us with the algorithm, gets more people involved in the chat. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think it said like 70 to 80% of my viewers on YouTube are not subscribers. So make sure you subscribe. It helps me out. And hit the little bell notification so that way you never miss any of our live streams or our videos. But also, Danny, I'm trying to hit that 5,000 before the end of the season, man. I think I can. I'm like 550 subs away. I think I'm going to hit 5,000 subs by MLS Cup Final Day, which hopefully you'll probably be at the match if it's Inter Miami, but maybe we can get you live streaming from the game to give us kind of some on the ground feel of what's going on. So make sure you subscribe. It helps me out and helps the channel grow. This is the fastest growing MLS only count that there is, and it's because of you guys. So I appreciate your support. I don't think it's Toronto because they've just invested $400 million or something like that into their stadium for the World Cup. I don't think it's them. The teams that I suspect it could be would be the Philadelphia Union, because their stadium is not even in the city. It's in Chester, PA. Mm-hmm. And they built it like 12, 13 years ago. The fan base is kind of dying down a little bit. I don't think they're really engaged with the team. I think it could be my top three teams are the Red Bulls, the Philadelphia Union, and maybe the New England Revolution if they can't get that stadium deal done in downtown Boston. That's my three teams who I think it would be. And plus, none of those teams have really had now they've had success as far as making it to cups and being competitive, but not those three teams have never won an MLS Cup. So there's not like that history of winning that's going to hold them to the city. That's who the three teams I would suspect it is. Now I'll have to ask Eric. Maybe I can pry it out of him and get him to tell me which team it is, right? But that's my three teams of who I think it would be.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Booker saying it's Minnesota. I don't think so. They have a soccer-specific stadium. I don't think it's going to be Minnesota. I mean, they just have a new stadium there. They have a brand new team. I don't think that they would move it, so quickly. And I'm curious to know the relocation city. I mean, I wouldn't put Las Vegas. Every sport seems to be going to Las Vegas over the last few years. If a team wants to, move to warmer weather, Las Vegas wouldn't be a bad area. Now, if it's an Eastern Conference team going to the Western Conference, how does that affect things? Would there be a reshuffle? There's a lot of question marks about the future of the MLS, and it's great because it just gives us a lot to talk about.
Well, Vegas is going to get a team regardless, one sooner than later, right? Now, I think that if there was a team, this is not what Eric has said, but speculating, right? Speculation zone we're entering, right? So take this. This is just our, opinions and guesses on this. I would think that the team that would move from the West Coast, it'd probably be a West Coast team that I think would move. It'd be an easier transition. I think it would be San Jose, Danny, because the Oakland Athletics are owned by the same guy who owns San Jose Earthquakes, and he just moved his team to Las Vegas. They're moving to Las Vegas. The Athletics are, and then the Raiders moved to Las Vegas a couple years ago. I would just assume that would be the natural, most logical team, especially because they're bad. Their fan base is they non-existent. They don't show up to any games, and it just feels like they're irrelevant in the area. So I think that they would be very, very celebrated, and teams people locally would be excited. Think about the players, right? In the United States, when it comes to players abroad, like European stars, it's all about the market, right? I don't think Inter Miami would not sign Lionel Messi if it wasn't Miami, like the actual location of the city. That's the reason why they got their foot in the door. David Beckham wouldn't have went to the Galaxy if it wasn't Los Angeles, right? Las Vegas is a very attractive spot for people abroad to come and play and live at. Like I could see one day, now I'm just like theorizing and just like, I guess you could say daydreaming about it, but I could see like an Mbappe play for Las Vegas one day. Like that just seems like something that can happen, right? Mbappe signs with Las Vegas FC or whatever the hell they are. Something like that. That's the name of, this would be years down the road when he's probably like in his 30s, but that's the name that I think a Las Vegas market could attract because the money there, the entertainment there, like that's an it city, and it's too big to not have a team, man. And I think it would elevate San Jose significantly, going from wherever the hell their stadium's actually at in the middle of nowhere to downtown Las Vegas. It'd be crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, and they would get a lot more tourists coming to the games. It's just it would be another great event that Las Vegas is good at doing, right? Las Vegas is great at hosting events. They host all types of sporting events. And we've seen the Mexican national team play games over in Las Vegas, and we've seen them sell out, or at least get a lot of fans in there. So I think it makes perfect sense. One of the people in the chat brought up Phoenix has a large Hispanic population. Absolutely. I know that their USL team if I'm not mistaken, I think Didier Drogba played for the Phoenix USL team or something like that. So
has ownership in it too.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's people that get attracted. And then also to answer Mr. Krabs' question, there was one relocation in MLS. That was the San Jose Earthquakes. Funny enough, Will, when in 2006, they relocated to Houston. And that's how Houston got their, their team in MLS. So that was, San Jose's already had 2 opportunities. So, if they get relocated, I mean, I think that's it for San Jose.
Well, me and Favi, a good friend of ours, lives in the San Jose, the Bay Area, right?
Tectonic links. No, I know.
Yeah, me and him have had several talks about this, right? The only way San Jose, I believe, could be successful at this point is they're still going to have to move, but they're going to have to move closer to San Francisco, and they're going to have to rebrand themselves as San Francisco FC or something like that, and just kind of just rebuild their brand. Nobody, sadly, cares about the San Jose Earthquakes. They don't care about them. There's nothing flashy about them. There's nothing exciting about them. And he told me that not only is it probably an hour away from San Francisco, it's an hour from San Jose, actual city. It's probably about the stadium, PayPal Park is probably close to an hour, at least 45 minutes away from San Jose. So they just have everything going against them. And if they don't move to Vegas, they're going to have to at least move to San Francisco, or at least rebrand as San Francisco FC. And besides, think about how cool that would be. Imagine if your logo had the Golden Gate Bridge on it or something crazy like that, kind of like what the Warriors do. It just seems like that would be the ideal situation and would make a lot of sense. But it seems like there's a lot of nonsensical people running that organization. But maybe, now this is an easy transition to talk to, maybe Bruce Arena, the MLS GOAT, can get that ship turned around. And I don't know how you feel about Bruce Arena. I think you're kind of like on the fence about him, like you respect him, but maybe you think he's kind of past his prime. I think that's
No, I think he's a great MLS coach. I think he would be great to coach any MLS team. And the fact what happened with him in New England, I thought was a shame because he had them playing very well. So, I'm not privy into the whole Bruce Arena situation, but in terms of a pure coach in the MLS, he's pure class, and I would have him as my coach any day.
Well, he's also a very good program builder, right? Or team builder. He's good at getting teams that are bad and helping turn them around. The LA Galaxy, when they had Beckham, were in shambles. They were terrible. And he was able to come in there and regroup and turn them into a team that won 3 MLS Cups. He took over the New England Revolution, which were in chaos after Brad Friedel was a disaster with them. And look at them. They broke the MLS record until you guys broke it 2 weeks ago, but they had the MLS record for most points in a season, MLS MVP and Carlos Hill. And that's close. He is a great rebuilder in getting teams back on track. And if Bruce Arena can't get San Jose back on track, I don't know if anybody can.
I mean, I completely agree, but I mean, it's going to have to take somebody to do it. But we're seeing a similar situation now in Chicago, right? Chicago basically fired everybody. They brought in Greg Berhalter. He's basically doing absolutely everything. He's GM coach. And we've already seen, and he's a person who, that you and I have personally talked about a ton, offline, online, just because we don't understand, how a person who has failed in a second division, Norwegian or Finnish or Swedish league or whatever it was that he was in, continues to get these types of jobs. But, he proved once that he could coach in the MLS, and we'll see if he can do it again. And this time he'll have full control over everything. So we'll see if he can actually be a Bruce Arena and be a program builder. Like you mentioned that Bruce has done. He's turned around every single franchise he's been at. So, if San Jose is looking for somebody to do that, there's no better person, to go out and get right now than Bruce Arena. But, I have a little bone to pick with a lot of these teams. And I think it's something that has to do with with I don't know if it's the different teams marketing or they just don't get it, but why do some of these teams on the West Coast, why don't they bring players from Asia? Like, dude, if I was on San Jose, I'd have 2 or 3 guys from the Japanese national team or from the Chinese national team or from the South Korean national team. I mean, you got to play to your fan base. You got to bring players that are going to play to your fan base and things like that. Like Houston did great. They brought in, Hector Herrera. That's a great signing. Why? He's a Mexican guy. He's going to bring in fans. If you can bring in 2 more guys from the Mexican national team or whatever, or some young guys, that's going to play to your fan base. You're going to get more fans to go watch your team. Teams need to start doing that. Look at Inter Miami. Obviously, yeah, they brought Messi, but they're bringing in a bunch of Argentinians. And what does Miami have? A bunch of Argentinians. And that's who all goes to support, these guys. When they had Joseph Martinez, the Venezuelans went to support. So these teams need to start targeting players that match the demographic in their city, and they need to start bringing them over, whether it's from Europe, South America, it doesn't matter, but you got to look at the demographic that you're in and start bringing some of these players, because that's what's going to get the fans to the game. You need to get more exciting players from these different, countries.
Whatever you do, do not say that around any LA Galaxy fan. You will get them completely riled up because they were so mad that Chris Klein put a huge emphasis on targeting Mexican players because of the market. They got so pissed off about that because they didn't think that was. I've talked to my friend Chris Tucker, who is he's one of the founding members of the Riot Squad podcast for the Galaxy, and he said he said specifically a lot of the Galaxy fans are pissed off that they're targeting Mexican players. They just want to sign the best player, regardless of what their nationality is. They don't care. They don't want to pander to a certain group. They want to just get the best players. But I do understand and agree with you to a certain extent. It does help you get your foot in the door. And the Galaxy don't have 2 stars, but they do have 2 Japanese players in Yoshida and Miki Yamane, two guys that played for the Japanese national team. I don't know if those are moving the needle, right? I mean, I don't think people are tuning in to see a center back and a fullback. But I think I do get your point, though, about trying to get maybe a Asian player that could maybe expand the market and interest in the team, and that's kind of what Miami has done, like you said, to a certain degree. But I don't know. I think that I see both points. I'm kind of neutral on it. Like I do see that. I do think that maybe you should just target the guys that are good, but maybe you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You could get someone who is good and then also gets a certain demographic interested in your team.
Of course, yeah, and I know Mr. Krabs loves to bust my chops because he watches the Batter Herons, and thanks for joining the MLS Moves and seeing me on here. I know you see my face enough on the other pod, but he brings up a good point. Miami does have a lot of Colombians, but look, they had 1 Colombian on the team, but he wasn't known. But you bring somebody who's, kind of been shows up, or an ex-Colombian player from the national team who's maybe on the decline, and fans are going to come out to see him. Maybe not every game, but you're going to get new people that weren't interested in going to see the team before because they're going to get a chance to watch this guy who they saw play on their national team or saw play on their club team in Colombia. But obviously, I'm not saying you got to just bring players because of their nationality. They got to be good, right? We're on the same page there. So in terms of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not saying just bring, any nationality because you want to cater to a demographic, but bring good players from the nationality. Like when Son is ready to retire, it would be really cool to see him play on one of the West Coast teams, or even on like a New York Red Bulls or NYCFC, just because there is a big Asian population in both of those states. So I really do think it would be cool to see that. And again, I agree. There should be a few Colombians on Inter Miami.
I'm surprised, just to speak on Colombian internationals, and I think your co-host or Batter Heron colleague Daniel,
yeah, he's
Colombian. Yeah, I think that they're arguably one of the best players in MLS history and one of the best Colombian players in history in Valderrama. They were able to get someone like him. I am surprised they haven't signed more Colombians in Major League Soccer because historically, Colombians have a lot of success. Look at Cucho Hernandez. Look at Chicho Arango. Colombians have had a lot of success in Major League Soccer. So that's a market I'm surprised that MLS hasn't tried to corner more of, especially because I think MLS is better than the Colombian domestic league. It's better quality overall. So give them a nice payday, try to recruit some of these guys over. I am surprised there has been more recruitment in that area, recently.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not just that league. I mean, you also have to look at the Ecuadorian league. You got to look at the Peruvian league. Obviously, they're in terms of top to bottom talent and top to bottom teams. They're not better than the MLS. But can you find a gem or two within those leagues that could positively affect or add value to one of the MLS teams? Absolutely. I mean, look at Inter Miami. Just out of nowhere, they signed, they brought over on loans Matias Rojas, Chelo Wigant, and then they were able to get Federico Redondo. Those are three guys. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Redondo is, what a great ball. Redondo it would be the gem out of those three, obviously. But Chelo Wigant has been a serviceable right back, right? Matias Rojas has, put in some really nice goals and has come up clutch in a few games. And that I feel like a lot of teams don't take advantage of those types of players. And I wish they would, because there's a lot of good players in those countries.
Well, speaking of other South American players that Miami either has been linked with or could use, let's talk about Neymar. People were asking in the chat earlier about it because it's been a frenzy, man. What's up with the checkered pattern on the pitch, by the way? What the hell is that?
No idea. Got to be something they just put in today.
Yeah, maybe something from the NFL game in the Falcons last week or something. But Neymar being heavily linked to Inter Miami, and he's been linked for years now, right? Eventually, that they think he's going to. How many games have we seen him at courtside with the Miami Heat, chilling in Miami several times, right? Do you think that happens? I mean, he just bought a plot of land for $23 million. Now, several celebrities own land in Miami, right? I mean, it's a paradise. People want to be there. Do you put much stock into that, or do you think that it's just another celebrity buying a second location?
Here's what I know. There was a video. I know that there was a interview or a talk between Neymar and Beckham a few years ago. And Beckham said, whenever you're ready, I'm going to give you a contract. Neymar said, okay. So there's already been some sort of contact. Just like you said, there's always been a flirtatious kind of relationship between Inter Miami and Neymar. Neymar bought a plot of land, like you said. He already has a 13,200 square foot house ready to be built on that land. Do I think that he would just buy a plot of land and build a house there just to have another home? No. The question is, when is he going to come? I think he's going to come. A lot of folks are talking about the winter. I think it'll be in the summer. And here's why. His contract with Al Hilal runs out at the end of this season. FIFA has granted all Club World Cup teams a special 10-day transfer window between June 1st and June 10th of 2025 to make any transfers before the Club World Cup, which lines it up perfectly with Neymar's dates. And Inter Miami is hosting the first game. How would that not be insane to have MSN debuting in the Club World Cup? I mean, I personally, I'm buying. I'm buying if you're asking me. So I think he's coming, but he's coming in the summer.
I'm having issues. I actually showed the game there for a second. Hopefully I don't get flagged for that. But I have an issue showing the score on
1-1. Oh no. Yeah, 1-1.
Williams pulls one back for Atlanta United. Wow.
Yep, that was a nice goal too. You can see Arthur Blank celebrating. Man, I want to see the replay here. I want to see who lost their mark, because Williams was just wide open. You got a wide open header in the box. It's nice to see Mercedes-Benz Dome so full, though. I'll tell you that. It was sad to see it so empty towards the end of the season.
I think it kind of looks empty tonight too. At least in the game.
He might be off. He might have been off.
I'll have to see the replay again.
What a great ball! But was that Miranchuk?
There you go. Hopefully that's better, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know why it wasn't refreshing the score during the game.
Trying to see if they show the replay. No, they gave him the goal. He looked off to me. But
1-1.
1-1. We got a game. Will.
Honestly, I think ideally they don't want Suarez and Messi to play more than 60, 70 minutes on turf, because it's just it could be dangerous for them, right? But they're not going to play for 3 weeks, so I guess it's not as big of a deal as it normally would be. Now, if they had a match next week, this could be a big deal for them. I don't think they played since last Friday, so they've had 8 days off, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess they could go full 90, but it just makes me nervous with Suarez's knees to keep playing on this turf, having to run around. Although he's looked pretty good tonight.
Yeah,
no
issues. He's been pretty limber. He's been moving pretty quickly. He had a couple of nice balls. Oh, they called him offsides on that one. I don't know, but
different Atlanta United, by the way, Jeffrey.
Yeah, it was a header in the just outside the 6-yard box. Suarez has been good today. He's actually been good the last month. I've seen him, nice and limber. He looks like he slimmed down a little bit. I was a little bit mad at him for what he did to the Uruguay national team, but I've gotten over him. I've gotten over it, and he's still my favorite player. So
back to the Neymar stuff. Sorry about the technical difficulty. I was just trying to get that figured out. God, I hope they don't strike me for showing that accidentally, that clip.
Nah, I think it was like just a couple seconds. No biggie.
Yeah. But I think that having Neymar, Suarez, and Messi back together for Miami is going to be huge. Like, there's nothing you can do bigger than Messi, right? We both agree with that. Like, he's the biggest that there is. You're not doing anything bigger. But having a Neymar sprinkled in on top of that amplifies it even more, because you're having the best front three in the history of football, in my opinion. Play together again.
You're reuniting the MSN, which was probably one of the most historic, triumvirate to ever share the pitch in the history of soccer. When you look back at, teams and that had 3 forwards, and you really look back and you're like, wow, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, they were in their prime. I mean, oh my goodness.
Oh, see, Calendar is just, what is he doing, man?
Yeah, see,
what's he coming out of goal like that for? He just, thank God he missed and they had 3 guys in goal, but he just makes bonehead decisions like that just jeopardizes his team, man.
Yeah, that's his 2 biggest issues. His 2 biggest issues for me are he's very poor playing at, with his feet, and he's not great at coming out. He misjudges when to come out. Those are his 2 biggest, flaws, in my opinion. And wow, he almost caused the penalty there. If he falls down, if that player falls down, if Fortune falls down, they call a penalty.
Do you think, I want to table the Neymar discussion for just a second, like the reunited, because this is important. Do you think that they try, now they obviously signed I think he's Argentinian, the backup goalkeeper they signed from Liga MX. Do you think that they maybe not necessarily move off of Drake Calendar next year, but do you think they actually give somebody to compete with him? I'm not saying he's bad. He's serviceable, right? I just think he's too much of a liability, man. If he's your goalkeeper at the Club World Cup, they're in trouble. Like, I don't think he's good enough to help them out. He's a liability.
I don't think so. I think he's an asset. I disagree with you. So I think he's kept Inter Miami in a lot of games. Yes, he does have flaws. Yes, could some of his flaws caused Inter Miami a game or 2? Absolutely. But look, every goalkeeper is going to have a bad, game or 2 over the season. I think overall he's been a lot more positive. I've seen him improve in a lot of the facets of the game that he needed to improve, which has been good, but he still needs to improve a little bit more. Now, do I think it's time for him to move on? Absolutely. I think it's time for him to get, a new challenge. And I would love to see Inter Miami move into the future with, Oscar Ustari and CJ Dos Santos. I think CJ Dos Santos was a very good backup who didn't get enough time because Drake Calendar got a lot of starts. I think Dos Santos might not be as great of a ball stopper underneath the post, but I think he's a lot more confident on the ball. And I feel like he comes out a little bit better than Drake. And look, the game that Oscar Ustari played, pure class. I mean, he's 38 years old, but I mean, he offers you so much, just just comfort and peace with your goalkeeper and being able to come playing out of the back. I mean, he's just an absolute class act. Obviously, they signed him only because Dos Santos was injured and they wanted to have, an experienced backup. But I love Ustadi. I've loved him since, he played in Independiente.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have someone like that in case something does happen to Calendar. I still think it'd be good to give him some competition because I don't think he's had true CJ Dos Santos has played good, but as well as I do, Danny, the culture in Europe is even if you're freaking Gigi Buffon, they're going to get someone good behind you to keep pushing you to be better. And I think Drake Callender, maybe that's an issue with him. He's kind of, I don't want to say complacent, but maybe that's why he has had some bad games, because he doesn't really have any competition. He's guaranteed to be the starting goalkeeper. At least he was until, like you said, they signed the Argentinian. Maybe that could push him next year. I don't know if that deal runs through 2025, but
no, it's just through the end of this season. But yeah, look, you took the word out of my mouth. I didn't want to say complacent either, but could that be, what it is? Absolutely. And that's why I said I think it's time to move on, and not in a negative way. I'm not saying it, I want to get rid of Drake Callender. No, I just think it's time for him to have a new challenge. And it's time for Inter Miami to either allow CJ Dos Santos the opportunity to step up or sign a veteran goalkeeper, who's going to be able to play like the Brad Guzan role that he's played at Atlanta United, whether it be 1 or 2 years, until you can develop somebody else. But I do think it's time to move on from Drake Callender at the end of this year. And I think really the time was at the end of last year after we had that great Leagues Cup. I think Inter Miami dropped the ball, and that's when they needed to sell him.
We talked about that because there was a team that offered $5 to $6 million for him after Leagues Cup because the Messi bump, right? And they turned that down because they thought maybe they could get more money for him. Like that might have been selling too low. That would have been selling high. What a pass by Messi. Oh, Jordi Alba a little too high. Yeah, I think that I think that they should have sold him. I'll be interested to see. I talked about this earlier because we'll tie this back into the Neymar talk, right? And me and you talked about this on the phone the other day. Jorge Mas doesn't want to be embarrassed at the Club World Cup. He wants to have a good performance. He wants to prove that the league, not only the league is good, but that his club is one of the best teams in the world, and that he's a premier team. He's got Messi, Suarez, all these guys. He's going to be really hammering the league to let him spend some money to compete at the Club World Cup. He does not want to get embarrassed. He's taking this very seriously, and he wants to try to win this thing. Now, will they? Probably not, but he's going to try like hell to do it. So he wants to be able to spend some money. I expect them to make several additions this winter and summer. They're going to add players. They're going to add more center back depth. They're probably going to move off of a couple guys, trade some guys, maybe trade a Robert Taylor, maybe trade a Leo Campana. I mean, nobody is safe. Keep in mind, guys, Inter Miami signed Kamal Miller to an extension last summer. Chris Henderson and him, they signed him to an extension last summer. He played very well in Leagues Cup and was a huge reason why they did good and won the Leagues Cup. And only to trade him this winter to Portland. So because a guy signed an extension or whatever the case may be, don't automatically assume that the guy is staying. I believe that there's several guys that they can move off this year. Like I said, Leo Campana, Diego Gomez is obviously going to England and going to Brighton. They might even trade a Facundo Farias. Who knows? They might. I'm not saying they will, but they could maybe get some assets or some GAM or TAM for him. I think they're going to be very active, Danny, in the winter transfer market.
I wouldn't even be surprised, and I'm going to throw a name out there that a lot of folks are probably going to be surprised about, but I'm not going to be that surprised if Inter Miami somehow, if they can bring in another center back, an experienced center back. I wouldn't be surprised if they loan Toto Aviles next season to allow him, maybe he goes back to Argentina, maybe he goes somewhere else, but to allow him to get some more game time, some more experience, looking into next season. I think he's had an okay season. I still think he has a lot to mature. Obviously, he's basically good for a yellow card a game. If that was a player prop on a betting app, I would bet that every single one. Toto Aviles yellow card, yes, every single one. But I think he has a lot to mature. So maybe a loan, wouldn't do him that bad. But yeah, I mean, I think, Leo Campana's time could be done with Inter Miami. Robert Taylor, like you said, again, could be done with Inter Miami. It's going to really, be a really interesting winner, I guess, for Inter Miami in terms of, who they're going to sign, who they're going to sell, who they're going to, can loan back and things like that.
What a save. What a save by Guzan on Luis.
Gone. Oh my God, again.
He's good, man. He's good. He knocked out the camera guy in the process. Yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be this is the thing. I don't even get sad when the season ends because the offseason activity is exciting too. And it would be more exciting if we were in the summer window with other teams, but that's a whole other subject. Okay. Our primary transfer window is the winter time. But I think that they're going to get another center back. They might get 2 more center backs. They might loan Toto Alvarez to an Argentinian team, a Brazilian team, maybe even an MLS team. Maybe. I'm not saying that they will. Oh, it's close off the crossbar.
Oh.
But they could totally. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the summertime. They were trying to trade him to Cincinnati. That was a real discussion that they were trying to move Toto Alvarez. Oh, Messi.
What a ball by Suarez, man. What a ball by Suarez. What? I thought Guzan got a hand on that.
I don't think so. But yeah, did you see, man, Suarez, Suarez is honestly a very underrated playmaker. Very underrated playmaker. Like, people don't talk enough about his vision. What about the scissor kick assist he had to Messi 2 weeks ago against the Revs, man? Not enough people talking about the 37-year-old Suarez on bad knees making a move like that. And it was perfect. It was a perfect pass.
It was. And even the pass before that, the one from Campana, was absolutely lovely. He just scooped it right over the defender's head. And Suarez just does what he always does. What he's known for doing. He did his magic. So now I see Atlanta United got Muyumba on. So we'll see if he can do anything.
I don't know why SofaScore isn't like constantly refreshing like it used to. There's got to be something. Normally, when we watch the game, I don't know if you see the screen. Normally, it's constantly refreshing. I'm gonna have to find another outlet to when we stream to. I guess the page is crashing. That's why it's doing this. We're going to have to find another alternative to that so people can keep up with the game. So I'm sorry about that, Jeffrey. Yeah, it's 1-1 Atlanta United and Inter Miami. But they're going to have a lot of trade bait, I guess, this offseason. Like, Campana scored 8 goals for Inter Miami off the bench this year, right? And he did start a couple games. I still think they can get some good value for him. I still think they could probably get like maybe $1 to $1.5 million in a combination of GAM and TAM, and that could help them land other players or even keep Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez. And I've been told, and you can tell me what you've heard as well. We talked about this the other day. Luis Suarez wants a pay raise, man. Like, I'm not saying he wants to break the bank, but he scored 20 goals this year, and he's only making $1.5 million. At least on the books, that's what he's making. I think he wants to he wants to be paid for his production. And it's kind of hard to argue with him when Sergio Busquets is making $10 million a year, and he really hasn't moved the needle, really. He's kind of overpaid. I could see why. Goals, people pay for goals. He scores 20. He's only getting paid 1.5 mil. I think his raise or him wanting a pay increase is totally justified.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've heard the same things. He's looking for a pay raise. He's also, excited to re-sign with Inter Miami and play one more year with his friends. So, I think the reason why he came on such a team-friendly deal this year was they had to fit him in somehow, and that was the only way they could fit him in. And there was probably some sort of wink, if everything goes well, we'll do something. So I have no doubt that Inter Miami will find a way to get him his raise, and get him within the fold and be roster compliant. So they've shown they can do it in the past. I know you and I, at the beginning of the season, we had some shows and some calls and stuff where we were like, wow, is Inter Miami going to be roster compliant or are they not? Or there was a lot of things going back and forth, but they were able to get it done. And I don't see why they can't do it again. Now, one of the biggest pieces of all this has been Chris Henderson. And there's been a lot of talk with Chris Henderson possibly moving on with, Inter Miami bringing now this gentleman from Barcelona to run the soccer side. And the former person who was president is now running the business side. I don't know, how Chris feels about that. I haven't had the opportunity to ask him.
What do you
There's
think
other-
about that? Like, why would Chris Henderson leave though? Like, I mean, I've heard some rumblings behind the scenes, but why do you think Chris Henderson is leaving? I mean, he's got a good gig here. It doesn't seem like
I
they
don't
would
think
really.
he's leaving. I don't think he's leaving, but I could see why he could leave. Now, if if he were to go somewhere else, he could say, "Hey, I have my total imprint on this." Now he's not. I mean, he's the general manager, but he kind of is under somebody, and we don't really know too much about what that person does either. The only thing we know, and this all ties back into Neymar, is that he was the person who is responsible for bringing Neymar to Barcelona. He spent 1 year of his life in Brazil, convincing, befriending Neymar, recruiting him, and he got him to Barcelona. So that's another reason why I think Neymar is going to end up in Inter Miami, is because, he was basically, the guy who recruited him. So I don't see why that won't happen again. Now, how does that hurt? Or, I don't know, because Chris Henderson has been a big part of this team and the construction of this team. And I think he's an absolute salary cap genius. He could be like probably one of the best salary cap geniuses in the MLS. So if he were to move on, to me, it would be more of like, hey, this is my team. This is my full team, and I'm not working for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes it interesting to see what will happen. I mean, he's obviously been rumored to be the general manager of Atlanta United, and I don't think that anything would come of that until probably the end of the season. Maybe something gets announced before then, but I don't know. I don't know what the timeline's looking on that. Now, Jeffrey had asked, which I'll answer this when you head out, about Patrick Vieira and who some players he might bring to Atlanta United. I think might be more about Chris Henderson. Maybe Atlanta United could be a team that tries to trade for Leo Campana because they need a striker. Maybe he takes some of his connections and players that he has with Inter Miami and tries to bring them to Atlanta United to help replicate the culture, right? And Leo Campana I'm critical of him, but he's the best backup striker in the league, and it's not even close. And he would be starting on probably 20 out of the 29 MLS teams, and he would be scoring double-digit goals on all 20 of those teams. Inter Miami was just fortunate enough to have a bargain signing in Luis Suarez that gives them the opportunity to bench a player like Leo Campana, right? Because you're not going to Luis Suarez is definitely going to start. They're just in a rare circumstance.
They are, and I'm with you 100%. I agree. Leo Campana would start on a majority of the MLS teams. I think he could be a fantastic striker within the right system. Unfortunately, I think for Inter Miami, he had to sit behind Joseph Martinez after they signed him. And then, unfortunately, he had to sit behind Suarez now. And the most interesting thing is he hasn't been able to play consistent enough to get them on the bench, either of them, in multiple games. And I think that's, what might be a little bit worrisome in terms of Campana. He hasn't been as consistent. Yes, he has 8 goals this year. He's Inter Miami's second, leading goal scorer ever. But you have to look at the number of games he played. So, in the right system, I think he'd be fantastic. And there's a number of teams that I think he would be fantastic in, Atlanta being one of them, for sure.
What do you think about this comment by Mr. Good friend of the show?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Inter Miami. Wouldn't put it past them. At this point, I think they're trying to bring everybody that's Barcelona over here.
They're trying to legitimately build a world-class club. That's what they're doing. Like they're not cutting any corners. And that's why I said earlier about Jorge Mas, right? Trying to change things to really compete at the Club World Cup, because he does not like to be embarrassed. He's a businessman. He's a serious guy. I heard he was kind of pissed about the performance, even though it was a friendly, losing. Was it 6-0, 7-0 in Saudi Arabia this summer?
Against Al Nazir. It was 6-0.
Yeah, it was a friendly, but he was pissed. He doesn't want to be embarrassed like that, friendly or not. He wants to show that his team's one of the best in the world. And MLS got embarrassed 2 years ago at the Club World Cup with Seattle, or a year ago. Absolutely embarrassed by an Asian club. I can't remember. I think it was an Egyptian team. They got the doors blown off of them. He doesn't want that to happen. He wants to compete and be one of the teams that seriously makes a deep run at the Club World Cup. And I think they're going to build a team. Imagine, we talk about this all the time. Me and you fantasize about this, not just from an Inter Miami perspective, but a league standpoint. What teams could be if they were allowed to spend. Miami would have Neymar on top of several other players that would be coming here if they were allowed to. They could build a top 25 team in the world if they were allowed to, because of the appeal of the city, the club's ambition, Messi, all of that stuff. It's the league that have held them back and not allowed them to do that. But I really do believe, I'm not trying to sell you guys false hope, I really do believe something is going to happen this winter that's going to allow teams like Miami, like LAFC, like the Galaxy to spend more than what they're spending right now. Something is going to happen. Now, to what magnitude, I don't know. But something's going to change. It's going to help out and elevate the quality more than what it currently is.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's not just Inter Miami. I mean, I think both LA teams would also be willing to spend. Obviously, NYCFC being, an extension of the City Group, they'd be willing to invest money. The Red Bulls being an extension of the Red Bull Group, again, would be another team willing to spend money. I think it's more the other clubs, the Columbus Crews, who are not used to
Montreal, like
right,
those
Colorado's, Real Salt Lakes, Montreal's. And look, Montreal is a fantastic city to live in. If I was a player in Montreal, offered me a contract, I'd love to live in Montreal. I've been there. It's a lovely city, great food, great people. But yeah, it comes down to the owner. You, at the end of the day, you need to have owners that want to spend money to compete. And this whole thing, I'm not a salary cap guy. Everybody knows I'm against it. I just want it to be wide open. I know a lot of folks don't want that. They love the parity, but I just want to see great soccer. I don't care about everything else. I want to see great teams play every week, especially if it's my team.
100%. I think that, I know people probably wouldn't agree with this or would be confused by me saying this, but I think if you let Miami kind of let the purse strings loose and say Neymar does come over here, that's going to make the players and the other teams better because of who they're playing against every week. You don't get better by playing against bummy scrub players. You get better by playing good players. That's how you improve the quality. The Premier League is so good because every team, it's not about parity and, every team's equal. It's about playing against great teams like Man City or Arsenal or Chelsea, just good teams. And that's why the quality has risen. That's why the league is so good. I mean, a lot of the teams aren't competing for the championship. It's mostly a 3-horse race like Atletico, Barca, and Madrid. But those teams make the other players good and the other league or teams in the league good. And that's how you kind of can elevate talent or see if a player, how many players has Barcelona specifically bought from other La Liga teams because they played against them? They're like, hey, that guy's pretty good. Look what he did against our team. Let's go buy that guy. You're showcasing your talents against better players, and that's how you get better.
Absolutely. I mean, the only way to get better is playing against better talent. I mean, even as a young kid, usually you want to get better. You play an age up, or you play a couple ages up, or you play with the bigger kids, or even with the more skilled kids. That's the only way to get better. If you play with people that are at your same skill level or lower, you're never going to end up getting better. You're just gonna basically just fall flat, and you're gonna plateau.
I mean, you think Lamine Yamal would be as good as he is if he wasn't playing for the Barca first team right now, or playing for the Spanish national team?
I don't think he'd be as good as he was if Messi wouldn't have held him when he was born.
You think that was the deciding factor? The picture, the photo shoot, was that what made him good?
No doubt. I mean, I tried to get my son to be held by Suarez or Messi, and I didn't get a chance. So,
oh man, if he did, hey, little Solana would be the next GOAT if that happened, right?
No doubt. I mean, he's on his way, man. This guy scores 8 or 9 goals every game. He plays every Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Fridays he has games. He scores 7 or 8 goals every game. I don't get it.
Ooh, close.
Very close.
I know you have to go out, but let's end it with one more question for you, and then we'll go to PKs. And I know you'll be biting your nails. Mr. says, well, we know Apple want them to. They want MLS to be a better product. I'm not saying go mental like the Premier League. By the way, Mr.'s a Brit. He's an English viewer. I'm not saying they have to go mental like the Premier League, but they could let the club spend a bit more.
100%. I mean, obviously, we know why the salary cap is there. We know, it's because It's a one entity, run league, and they want to, kind of have this parity. But I'm with Mr. Mister. I'm with you. Maybe you don't have to open it up like he said, like they do in other leagues. But absolutely allow the owners to open their wallets, especially the ones that are willing. And the ones that are not, like I always say, you shouldn't be an owner. If you're not willing to spend, what are you trying to do? Like, I don't get it. So,
yeah. And also, too, I got it on good authority that Apple is the one that's telling Major League Soccer to change their schedule because they don't understand why they're playing their playoffs against the NFL, the NCAA, football, NBA, NHL, MLB, World Series, all that. They said it doesn't make any sense to be playing at the same time as those leagues. So they're the ones behind trying to get the schedule to be changed.
I'm all in. Let's go for it, Apple. We're in bed with you for the next 9 years. So, let's make something out of it.
Let's do it, man.
Let's make a nice baby.
Danny, before you leave, tell the people where they can find you at.
All right, guys. You can find me at all my social medias at Danny Solana5, DANI Solana5. Twitter, Instagram, I'm always dropping stuff on there. Love to have good soccer combos and love being on here with you, Will. Let's see if Inter Miami can pull it off.
Danny's one of the, not only the nicest people I know, one of the most loyal, honest people that I've met in this, since I've been doing this. So I appreciate his friendship. Obviously, he's the OG streamer with me doing the live watch alongs. We started back in the summer. So I appreciate his support and everything he does as a friend. So make sure you go subscribe to him. The Battered Herons, which he is part of, and make sure you follow him on Twitter. Good. Appreciate you stopping by, man. And I guess we'll maybe do another stream maybe in 3 weeks or something.
I'm in, man. If maybe one next week, we'll see.
We'll see. I appreciate it, man. You have a good night, and hey, good luck to your team.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Will.
That was Danny Solana, good friend of the show. Appreciate him stopping by and doing the stream with us. Sorry, we'll catch up on some questions. I'm sorry, just wanted to interact and see what Danny had said. It's been a minute since we talked. But Mr. Mister, back to what you said about the Premier League. Yeah, nobody's expecting MLS to be the Premier League, right? It's not going to be, but they definitely want them to spend more money to improve the quality. I think Apple's actually been kind of pissed off about the deal. They don't like what has happened with Major League Soccer. They kind of, I don't want to say they're having buyer's remorse, but they definitely aren't satisfied with what is going on with the league. They want to see a little bit more commitment. And they, like I told Danny and told you guys, they're the ones that the driving force behind getting this schedule change. They want it to be on a Euro schedule for many reasons. They want to have the same transfer windows, and they want to have. They don't. Oh, what a whiff by Suarez. They want to have a less competitive field for the most important time of the year. Advertisement wise, ticket wise, interest wise, the playoffs are the golden are the prime time for most sports, especially MLS. They do not want to be competing with college football during their prime time of their season. And they also want to have, a more enjoyable experience. People at the game, people want to go. People aren't as inclined to go to games when it's not only the competition, but the cold weather. Or not necessarily just the cold weather, but there's just too much competition. And I guess you could play in the cold weather, competing. Like they're going to choose other things or stay in their home and watch other sports. But having the playoffs in May it makes too much sense. And people were talking about how the summer, like they're upset about the summer getting, competing or losing the summer games. I talked to Eric about it. The summer games kind of plummet anyways because people are on vacation. They're doing other things. It's too hot. A lot of places, it's just way too damn hot and humid. They're not going to be, people aren't necessarily going to games or in abundance like they would in May. So I think there's just a lot of downfall with the calendar. It definitely does affect things, but the spending, I think Apple is pushing MLS in a lot of in a positive direction. I do think Apple needs to do a better job promoting. I mean, how honest to God, how well do you think Major League Soccer and Apple have done at promoting this playoffs? Maybe one post a day. I mean, I would be posting 2 or 3 times a day leading up to the match. I don't think they're doing that. They're not doing nearly a good enough job of promoting the promoting the playoffs. Ooh, off the crossbar. Saba? Yeah, Saba almost put the dagger in Inter Miami to make it go to a game 3. There's 1 minute left plus added time. Looks like it froze again. I'll keep trying to refresh this for the people that aren't watching the game, so that way you can see what's going on. But God, that was close. This is likely to go to PKs. And just think if Brad Guzan hadn't had that mishap where he dropped the ball or panicked or whatever it was and gave the ball away to David Martinez, Atlanta United would be winning this match. Not sure how much added time is going to be. I'd say probably like 3 to 4 minutes. I think that's what it would be. But who knows? I don't think there's a lot of wasted time in the second half, if I'm not mistaken.
Both teams shockingly bad with really no pressure on them in these moments.
Added time is presented by Audi. There will be a minimum 5 minutes left. A minimum 5 minutes before a potential penalty shootout. Rojas. Silva poked it away. Martinez clipped in towards high in the air off of
5 minutes of added time, by the way.
If it goes to penalties, the winner of the penalty shootout considered the winner of this game 2. If Atlanta, that forces a game 3 in Florida next Saturday. If Miami,
I doubt that either of these teams are going to pull back a goal in the final 5 minutes. I'm expecting this to go to PKs.
It is for and Atlanta United. A minimum 4 minutes of added time left to try to find a winner in regulation, or else their season comes down to a penalty shootout for the second time in less than 2 weeks. The heat map is presented by Celsius, official energy drink partner of MLS.
Saba looks like he's still hobbling around. Almost got the game-winning goal there.
What's interesting about this, we didn't show it to you in the first half, but the second half has made that graphic a little bit further. Here's an opportunity.
And see what helps Inter Miami too is just look at the depth they had. Like they got Matias Rojas on the pitch in the final 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be when he came in. Most teams don't have a player that good on their team in general, but that's a guy that they have coming off the bench. They got Campana, like me and Danny talked about, a striker of Campana's quality coming off the bench. So they have a lot of depth other teams don't have. Now, the center back depth is terrible. You know, Kristoff is just absolutely terrible. Can they find a late goal? Oh, is it onside? Oh, flags up. Offside by Messi. Had a header from pass from Matias Rojas, but it's offside. Ooh, that was close.
I felt like this was difficult. I think that ball absolutely 100% hits the right arm of Redondo, and yet the referee allows play to continue. And that play
Oh yeah, God, that was way offside.
Where Messi's a yard offside, but that's difficult.
Way offside. 3 minutes left of added time. Or 2 minutes, excuse me. 2 minutes left of added time. 1-1. Atlanta United, Inter Miami tied. Looks like this game will go to PKs. Refresh this for you guys. Been a lot of PK matches in the first round, but you know, if it's a draw, they don't have extra time. Oh. Wow. Atlanta United pulls one back. 2-1. Atlanta United up 2-1 over Inter Miami. Pull one back in the 4th minute of added time. Wow. Atlanta United. Does Inter Miami have the magic left in him to pull one back in 1 minute? A lot of time wasting here by Atlanta. So there's 1 minute of added time, but it'll probably be like close to 2 minutes. God, what the hell is the defense doing? Do you see? I mean, it was like 5-on-2. Like the Inter Miami defense is just so bad. Like the marking's terrible. Just absolutely terrible. That's their downfall. Rob Valentino, if he wins this game, is he going to be the manager? Is he going to keep this job? Can you let him go? Can you let Rob Valentino go after beating Miami in a best of 3, beat him at least one time? Can you let him go? And if you do, someone else will hire him. I assume someone else will give him a chance in Major League Soccer. I'd say that there's probably at least 1 more minute left just because of all the wasted time after the goal.
Messi sends it forward. Still work to do. Williams. Kazan tried to keep that from being a corner. Was he able to?
That looked like I was out of bounds. That looked like that'd be a corner, honestly. I don't know if Brad Guzan kept that out.
Inter Miami at the end of the first half, that may have been the best plays ever made. And I got to go back to it. Diego Gomez scores. Yep. It's 2-0. This thing's over.
We're 30 seconds past the 5 minutes of added time, but there was a lot of stoppage, a lot of wasted time on that goal. See if Miami has one in them. I doubt they will. Anthony Booker says, I've been saying for a long time Miami has one of the worst defenses in the league. They have one of the worst center back situations on top of having a very shaky goalkeeper situation. Not a good combination. What a bad giveaway by Redondo. Yep, game 3 officially over. Goes game 3 to Miami. So I guess they won't have 3 weeks off. Game 3 will be, let's see, November 9th. So what is that? A week from today will be game 3 for Inter Miami and Atlanta United. Wow. What an upset. What an upset. Atlanta United able to beat them at home, right? Props to Rob Valentino and this team. They played a good game. Inter Miami played very bad, and it's going to make an interesting series. It's an interesting series now. Anything can happen. This will be an elimination game in game 3. Be an elimination game in game 3. Inter Miami, Atlanta United will play next week. Wow. Well, we'll see what happens. Miami obviously is very good at home. I don't think Messi had a good game tonight. I think Suarez played okay. A lot of players kind of played checked out tonight, in my opinion. I think there was a lot of like kind of cruise control feel to this game. But hey, props to Atlanta United. Big win. They have a chance to eliminate the first seed in Inter Miami at Inter Miami next Saturday. I will be doing a live stream tomorrow night at 8:45 for the LAFC Vancouver Whitecaps game. So make sure you check that out. Like the stream down below if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, guys, we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. We're 550 away. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate the support. Appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. We had like over 1,600 people tune in. So I appreciate the support. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.